The Force Awakens is the current Star Wars box office king, but did it outperform its budget the best? From the core worlds to the outer rim, hello there, I'm JC and welcome to Fandom Finance, where today we're going to take a look at the current Star Wars global box office list and
reorganized into the first galactic
profitability ratio list. Allow me to segue for the next 30 to 60 seconds into the stock market, where this is where the inspiration for this profitability ratio has come from, which is the PE ratio, price to earnings ratio, which can be found in the stock market, a very common metric to figure out if a stock is expensive or not. There's tons of different stock prices out there. So the most common thing for, I think, most retail investors is to they see a stock price at $1,000 versus one at $10. They think that the $10 one is the least expensive, but a very simple metric to figure out, which is taking the share price, dividing it by the earnings per share, gets you the PE ratio to figure out if a stock is expensive or not. So as an example, perhaps you have, let's just say $1,000 stock that has a PE ratio of 15, but the $10 stock has a PE ratio of 100. It makes the $1,000 stock actually much more inexpensive compared to the 10. PE 15, PE over here, the $10 stock 100. And that's all we're trying to do with this ratio. Instead of trying to figure out what is the most expensive, we're going to see what is the most profitable against its budget. Okay, so we're taking the global box office return and just dividing that by the budget. Very simple. So let's get into that list. Actually, before we get into that list, I'm just going to throw up onto the screen for the next 5 to 10 seconds what the current global box office return for each Star Wars movie, 1 to 11, and then we'll get into that list. All right, you fine people have waited long enough. So let's get into the profitability ratio list, starting from the outhouse, making our way to the penthouse. Solo, A Star Wars Story comes in the number 11 spot at $392 million against a budget of $275 million with a profitability ratio of 1.42. In the number 10 slot, we got Rise of Skywalker at $1.074 billion against a budget of $275 million for a ratio of 3.9. In the number 9 slot, we got The Last Jedi, $1.332 billion against a budget of $317 million for a ratio of 4.2. Rogue One, A Star Wars Story, $1.056 billion against a budget of $200 million for a ratio of 5.28. In the number 7 position, we have Attack of the Clones, global box office return of $649 million against a budget of $115 million for a ratio of 5.64. In the number 6 slot, we have Revenge of the Sith, $848 million against a budget of $113 million for a ratio of 7.5. In the number 5 spot, the king of the Star Wars global box office is The Force Awakens at $2.068 billion against a budget of $248 million for a ratio of 8.44. In the number 4 spot, we have The Phantom Menace at $1.027 billion against a budget of $115 million for a ratio of 8.93. In the number 3 spot, we have Return of the Jedi, $475 million global box office return against a budget of $32 million for a ratio of 14.84. In the number 2 spot, Empire Strikes Back, $538 million global box office return against a budget of $18 million for a ratio of 29.88. In the number 1 spot, the movie that kickstarted everything, all of our imaginations, even this channel, and among many others, merchandising, other films, is A New Hope. With a global box office return of $775 million against a budget of, get this, $11 million for a ratio of 70.45, making A New Hope the most profitable Star Wars movie against its own budget. If you like what you heard, then please do the cliche thing and force choke all the buttons of the like and subscribe variety. Be sure to check out future content in regards to financials and overall number stats in fandom media. And with that, I will see you all in the comments.